Table roll, please.
You live, bro?
All right, here we go. Lab Coat Agents. Welcome to an awesome Facebook Live and webinar with my business partner, Nick Baldwin. We've got Dan the man. Dan, you changed your name just for this, buddy. We have Matthew Ferry. Matthew Ferry has so many amazing qualities. And I met Matthew a while back through coaching. I was actually coaching with him in regards to making myself a more whole, better human being. And we coached together for about a year, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. And then Matthew right now coaches not just real estate agents. He coaches some really amazing people in businesses throughout. So all sales verticals and just people in general who want to become a better human. And what Matthew does is he talks about quieting your mind. He talks about going in a lot deeper into who you are and being in control of really the responses that you have on a daily basis. And for those of you who don't know, he came up with the Drunk Monkey. So Matthew, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, glad I am here with all of you guys, and I'm pretty excited about giving you some thoughts and ideas on getting the mind to go quiet so you can do some fearless real estate and do more deals. How do you want me to start this?
Hey, Matthew, I just want to make a comment real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
This reminds me of a post yesterday that Tristan made on his personal page that said something like, my mind has too many tabs open, right? Like, you know how many times you see on your computer screen, you got like 50 tabs open. That's kind of how our head feels on a regular basis when we're being pulled in a million different directions. So I'm actually really looking forward to this webinar. So I appreciate that.
And what's exciting is that when you get the survival part of your mind to go quiet, then you can actually organize all the different things that are going on in your life in a more effective way. So it's not like your mind goes quiet and then you're an idiot. It says your mind goes quiet and then you're not overwhelmed and stressed by the information that's coming in. You're able to organize it effectively and take proactive action. It's pretty cool.
Love it.
Yeah, good comment, Nick. So Matthew, can we start off by talking about the quiet mind? Where did you come up with that, and what does it mean to us as the people that are watching in?
Awesome. Well, first of all, I did not come up with a quiet mind. I'm just describing a quality that can exist for someone. And when you have a quiet mind, you can overcome those fears that we have of doing more deals or calling that prospect or because when your mind goes quiet, your fear disappears. And when your fear disappears, the courage that you have to live an epic life goes through the roof. And Tristan, you and I have done a tremendous amount of work with each other. And together we have discerned that all fear is in the mind, that there's nothing out there in the world that actually makes you afraid. It's contextual. So I just want our viewer to start thinking about this idea. How many more deals would you put together if you had no fear? If the stuff that, because it's, think about listing presentations. There's actually 4 listing presentations that happen. There's the listing presentation that happens in your head on the way over. And you're bold and audacious, but you're fighting with the drunk monkey in your head, right? The drunk monkey saying, they're going to want to price it too high, and they're going to cut my commission, and you're fighting, you're doing battle with a figment of your imagination. Then there's the presentation you actually make. Then there's the presentation you make in your head on the way home. I should have said this. Why did I say that? What's wrong with me? Then there's the presentation you tell your friends about when you get back to the office. There are many different things that are occurring in the world, and most of the things you experience are in your head. So when you have a quiet mind, you're in the present moment. You're free from stress. And that's valuable because the American Institute of Stress tells us that 73% of Americans deal with psychological stress on a regular basis. And Tristan, you know from running a big team and running multiple businesses, being a real estate agent can be very stressful. And that's bad news. But here's the good news. Having a quiet mind is a skill that anyone can develop. No meditation necessary. Now, people ask me on a regular basis, is this like Eastern mysticism? Is this, are you talking about Buddhism or Hinduism or Zen or something like that? And while there might be parallels, because I think that all of those religious philosophies, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, blah, 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 right? All of these religious philosophies, they really had one intention, and that is to have you be a happy, peaceful, joyous person, to live in a great state. And so I'm sure there are parallels. I haven't studied too many religions, but I will say that a quiet mind has traditionally been called enlightenment. And for most people, that seems like nuts, right? It seems impossible. But Tristan, you and I have experienced it together. It's actually attainable, and it's very practical, because life is so much better when you are at peace. It's like what Nick said, when you have 50 tabs open in your head, if you are at peace, you can look at the tabs and you see them differently. You're like, oh, this would be very powerful. These I can push to the side. And everything slows down. Life is so much more enjoyable when you're at peace, especially when you're at peace with things like the economy, or what the president is doing, or the what is going to be the impact of all the shenanigans that are going on in the government, the future of our nation, with money, with health challenges. I mean, let's be honest. Those things actually open up more tabs in our brain that aren't actually what we're dealing with. They aren't actually as important as we make them, but the mind gets attached to those things and wastes your time and energy focusing on them.
So I just want to, I have a question, but I also have a comment. So when Tristan did post that, I actually saw, and I know Tristan really well, and Tristan, is really good at keeping calm, and I'm the complete opposite. So when I saw that post that he made, I saw that while it was funny, I saw that as Tristan being vulnerable, because it's his way of saying he was probably a little stressed out, right? And so I did appreciate that post. For me, I haven't been quiet about this. I suffer from extreme anxiety. Like, it's really, really bad, right? So I'm interested to find out how you got on your path to the quiet mind and what you do regularly to kind of get that zen, so to speak, so you can focus.
Cool. Let's talk about where it started for me. I come from a personal development family, as you know. My father has been in the personal development industry since I was a kid. I've been exposed to people like Earl Nightingale since I was born. But I started on my path to a quiet mind when I was 9 years old, and that was a departure, really, from what my family has been involved in. My family has been involved in optimizing the outer state of the world to maximize your safety, security, prosperity, etc. And that's extremely valuable. For me, though, I had a shift. And for me, when I was 9 years old, I had these experiences where I felt like I was floating above my body. And I felt this incredible, profound peace. And Nick, it was so powerful that as an adult, I was driven to find a predictable path to feeling what I could only describe as this sense of all is well. And after coaching thousands of people from Wall Street to Main Street, from real estate agents to real estate investing to entrepreneurs and CEOs and moms and dads and everywhere in between, I discovered I'm not alone. Most people just want to feel like this, all is well. People just want to feel like things are going to be okay. I mean, how much more fearless would you be in your real estate business if you knew, if you were sure, if you were positive that everything was going to be okay? You would do so much more. And I remember coaching for my father, and I was in development on these ideas, but I wasn't really thinking about them in the same way. But most of the other coaches would send me their failing real estate agents, and I had a capacity to turn people around quickly. But I didn't turn anyone around by telling them what to do. Because what I found is, you know what to do. You don't do it. You know what to do. You don't do it. And you don't do it because you're getting mind effed, right? Your mind is what I call the drunk monkey, is just getting in there and, distracting you from taking the actions. And we get stuck in irrational fears. How many more deals would you do if you knew that all is well? Now, I call the process, so I'll answer the second part of that for you, Nick. The process for me, I've distilled down into what I call the rapid enlightenment process. And I wrestled a lot with this, with the naming protocol. Kristen and we're really committed to making sure that we name things with profound levels of integrity. And rapid was really the only word that described the ascent that people made from survival anxiousness to enlightened peace. And then once you go to enlightened peace, then it's enlightened prosperity, because once you're at peace, now you can do the stuff that you've been wanting to do. You're not burdened by the stress and the anxiety and the negativity of the mind. So the rapid enlightenment process is really a proven way to get the mind to quiet down, to stop being so worried and stressed out, so you can be at peace with life exactly the way that is. And we see this in real estate right now. Markets are slowing all over the place. Now, some places in the middle of the country, they're still doing pretty good. On the coasts, we're seeing different neighborhoods really dropping prices fast. I mean, for the first time in a long time, in the first quarter, and now on into the second quarter of the year, we're seeing homes come on the market and then boom, drop in their price. And being at peace with that is not easy. It's not easy, but it's 100% doable. And when you're at peace, you have the courage to look that seller in the face and say, currently you are the highest bidder on your home and no one else cares. So if you want to sell it, the only lever you have to pull is your price, and that's it, right? Being able to speak with incredible straightness with people takes courage, and it takes personal empowerment. Really, really important.
I think a lot of real estate professionals, we see this every day in lab coat agents, where they're frantic, right? Like, they're frantic for a few reasons. One, because, like you said, they're not at peace with their business. They don't know how to handle an appointment. They don't know how to close it. They don't know how to close a buyer and or seller. They're afraid of technology coming in and taking their jobs or moving them aside. Tristan, we see this all the time. People are just so incredibly stressed and frantic and anxious, and they're not taking a minute to just kind of get to that relaxed state and figure out, how to get that focus. And so you talk about in your book, the rapid enlightenment process, right? So what is that? Because it sounds like something that we can really help agents tap into to kind of calm them down a little bit.
Let me back up before I go all the way in and just address this idea. Franticness. Okay. If you are frantic, it is an expression, or it is the result of a context. The context is, I am at risk. The future is uncertain. I don't know what to do. I'm not going to make it. So there's and that is a survival context, and one that is or has been valued in the past. But today, this context is not serving you. So you have all these other things, right? With, am I going to become marginalized by technology? Am I going to get stepped aside? Is my commission going to get dropped down? Do I know how to close the deal? Am I going to price it right? Is it going to sell? Is the buyer going to close? Is the mortgage broker going to perform? You have all of those things, right? But on top of that, you have retirement, medical expenses, illness, divorce, death of spouse, loneliness, You have these anxieties and depressions that people have. When you experience that kind of stress, you automatically go into a survival mode. And when you go into a survival mode, you're a pain in the ass. You're a pain in the ass. You're not easy to be with. And if you're not easy to be with, you're not going to do deals. Doing deals doesn't happen to people who are frantic. So using the rapid enlightenment process, you can leapfrog right out of that survival mode. You rise above the doubt and the uncertainty. You quiet your mind, which means that you can, or meals, either one. It means that you can deal with the actual circumstances of your life in a more practical and effective way. So let's think about it like this. We have this problem, and the problem is our mind is distracting us, burdening us. The mind, what I call the drunk monkey, is being driven. And I'll show you, actually, I got a graphic here for you that I'll show you here in a moment. But the mind is being driven. And what happens is it stresses us out and we beat ourselves up in it. And that makes it worse. The underlying cause of all of this is something called survival consciousness. And without even knowing it, Nick, you have spent your life fighting against an aspect of yourself that thinks that you're living in dangerous times. That's what stresses you out. So if we look at it, what these things are called, and I want to go through the 4 components of the rapid enlightenment process, but what these things are called are the hidden motives to survive. And you can see the hidden motives: greed, grudge, hatred, victim, illogical rules, humble, traitor. These pride, resistance, lazy. These aspects of consciousness are actually driving the thoughts, which I call the drunk monkey. So what traditional personal development is trying to tell us to do is control your thoughts. Control your thoughts, Nick. Come on. You need to control your thoughts. More affirmations, more visualization, more meditation. The problem is that the underlying motivation of thoughts are these hidden motives to survive. If you do not heal or correct the imbalances in these things, your mind will never shut up. And I'm living proof. I did everything under the sun to get my mind to go quiet. And truth is, I got it to go quiet for pretty long periods of time, an hour or 2 or something like that. I'd meditate, then I'd feel really good for a while, that kind of thing. But always, who'd come swinging out of the jungle? The drunk monkey. And it wasn't until I took on greed, grudge, hatred, victim, illogical rules, humble, traitor, pride, lazy, resistance, until I started to take on those things and let's say heal the imbalances in my consciousness, my mind didn't stop. Stress is an accidental survival response. And the reason that it's an accidental survival response is you're not in survival. You're not in survival. You don't stress out because life is awesome. You don't stress out because all is well. You stress out because you've made the illogical conclusion that if you don't take these actions, which are really goals, right? I had these goals and dreams and desires. And what I've done is I've taken my goals and dreams and desires and I've basically said, if these things don't happen, I'm a loser. If these things don't happen, I'm screwed. And it's not true. Every one of our people who are watching right now can figure out some other way to make their life work. But we get stressed. We get freaked out. We stress out because life isn't the way that I want it to be. You stress out because you aren't there yet. You stress out because the future is uncertain, because you're in survival mode. But you're actually living in the most abundant time in human history. You're not worried about food. You're not worried about shelter and being safe. You're not worried about if the tribe over the hill is going to come kill everyone and take your resources. But that's the way the mind is operating, right? The anxiousness that you're talking about, the anxiousness is actually a mistake. It's the old part of you malfunctioning. in this current state. You're not in a survival state. You're actually worried about thriving. You want to thrive. You want to live. You want to live your full potential. Am I going to live my best life? That's really the question you're asking yourself. Am I going to fulfill my potential? But you can't answer those questions if you're in a survival perspective. Making money is not about survival. Real estate is not about survival. It's about thriving. If you want to survive, go get a job. That's what the rapid enlightenment process is all about changing, is changing that context. So I want to talk about these 4 simple components, and thanks, Nick, for giving me the opportunity to kind of bring that context into focus. And let me answer this idea for you on the 4 components of the rapid enlightenment process. So here's the first one, everybody. The first thing is you have to see what I've been teaching my students now for 25 years, and that is you have to see that your mind is not your friend. That your mind, what I call the drunk monkey, is actually a survival mechanism. And I remember back in the day, it must have been 1991 or something. And I remember I was studying, I think it was Jose Silva, and he was talking about the monkey mind. And I was like, oh, the monkey mind. I said, my mind back then, I was 21, right? I was partying like crazy. My mind is not like a monkey. My mind's like a drunk, wasted, obnoxious monkey. I started calling my mind the drunk monkey back then. And, I'm happy to say that it's a pretty pervasive term now. And that makes me smile. It makes me happy. And it makes me happy to see so many of my students, especially in Keller Williams, for example, so many of my students using the drunk monkey. Now, the question becomes, can they go all the way? So you got to see that your mind is not your friend. But then there's another component. You have to see what I call the unconscious reflexes. So in my book, Nick, Quiet Mind, Epic Life, I go through 6 of the 12 unconscious reflexes. Let me tell you what they are. So the unconscious reflexes are forecasting the negative, the desire to fit in. So you don't say what you really mean because you're trying to fit in. You're holding people accountable to agreements they didn't make. So you get pissed off at your sellers and your buyers because they don't follow rules that you didn't establish in the beginning, but you're holding them accountable like they somehow they're supposed to know what your rules are. There's avoiding making the same mistake twice, which is illogical because you're never, ever doing the same thing twice. Everything is always changing. Then you're following rules that don't exist. Well, my mom said, don't bother people. Don't impose on people. Well, good luck being a good salesperson. And then you have avoiding failure, which of course is an obvious one, and then opinions on everything. So these are unconscious reflexes. And let me help you understand what that means. The mind is like a GPS, except you didn't program its destination. So tell me if you can relate to this, Nick. You look at your to-do list and you say, I'm going to do these 3 things because these 3 things here will create the biggest bang for my buck and it'll maximize my day. And literally, you say, all right, I'm going to do number 1 on the list. And then here comes the GPS, the drunk monkey in your head. And it's like, no, Nick, you know what you should really do? You should go cruise Facebook. I wonder if anybody made any comments on your last post.
Get out of my head.
Right. Avoidance behavior. But it's not actually avoidance behavior. It is actually survival behavior. So your heart says, do these actions and live the life you want to live. But the GPS in your head says, well, we need to survive, so you actually need to go left. You say, I'm going straight, and then your mind talks you out of it. Have you ever had a that's it day, Nick? You know what I'm talking about?
Where you just have had it?
Yeah, with yourself.
You're just done, yeah.
With yourself. But then you wake up the next morning, you're like, that's it. That is it. I'm gonna get my ass into the office and I'm gonna do something, right? And you're like, rah! And you're
Tristan can count how many times I've had those.
That's why I'm laughing. It's the best.
You know what I'm talking about, right? You slam the door open to the office and you look, and it's literally, you look at all the other agents, you just think, losers. Today is my day. I'm going to do this, right? And you come strutting in and say, who can tell by the way I use my walk? I'm a woman's man. You know, you're all like rambunctious and filled full of pride. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to follow up on those 6 leads that you have that you know if you call those people, you're going to get a deal. And it's like the moment you look at the phone, who comes swinging out of the jungle? It's the drunk monkey. You should just check Facebook before you get on the phone, Nick. There might be some things that you're going to do.
Oh, man.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
The most negative place on planet Earth, Facebook.
Your mind chatter only has one destination, and that is survival. So if you tune into the drunk monkey, what you'll see is it is avoiding embarrassment. It's looking good. It's avoiding failure. It's trying to live right. It's trying to fit in. It doesn't want to rock the boat. And the thing is that until you have the awareness that there is a biological mechanism called the drunk monkey, and that the mechanism itself is not you. You are the observer of the thoughts. Until you are aware of that, your mind will never be quiet, and you will always be what I call the drunk monkey's puppet. You will be a puppet on a string, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you know, you've tried, right? You've done the affirmations. You've tried the visualizing. It doesn't help. You've read the best books on personal development, only to get so far. You have morning rituals and productivity hacks and you know, I am a badass, right? You all that shit. Guess what? It doesn't work. And I know it's embarrassing. I just want you to know. I'm 3rd generation personal development teacher. It is embarrassing that all of these things that get promoted turn out to be more about marketing and getting people to buy than producing the result. And we look at it and we see only a few people are able to produce the result. But if you go and talk to them and really dial in what's going on, what you find out is they're not actually, it's not the result isn't occurring from the things that they're doing. It's something else. And the something else is what I'm talking about. And it was purely out of my own survival, guys. It was like, you know, what the hell is wrong with me? I'm doing everything and my mind is still driving me crazy.
Hey, Matthew, go back to the first point that you read off in your book, the first of 6 about broadcast. Was it forecasting the negative? Is that what that was?
Forecasting the negative, yes.
Yeah, my father always used to say to me, don't put the cart before the horse, right? Like I would always, you know, assume something was going to happen. And in real estate, we do a lot of that. Oh my God, like you said, oh my God, what if the house doesn't appraise? Oh my gosh, what if my buyer can't get a loan? Oh my gosh, I'm going to starve. Oh my gosh, I'm never going to do another deal for the rest of my life. Oh my gosh, we're seeing so much of that, right, Tristan? Just nothing but forecasting the negative. And I truly believe that the more positively I do think about things, the more positive of an outcome I have. And so I have this conversation with my wife all the time because everyone gets into that mindset where they think the world is ending, right? I got a great house. I got a great wife. I have a great job, great career. I have great kids. And I stop and I say to her, I'm like, you know, like we have a great life. Like things are going to happen that are going to suck, but you cannot control what is completely out of your control. And so I have just made a personal point to just focus on what I'm able to control in my life. And it has made me so much more of a sane person. You know what I mean? So I just really love that first point, you know, forecasting negative, because way too many of us are doing that.
It's an unconscious reflex. Harvard did a study where they had people download an app and report on what their mind was doing when they were engaged in different activities. And the authors of the experiment were shocked. And the thing that they wrote about was that an idle mind defaults to the negative, that the mind cannot be counted on for being positive. And trying to wrestle the mind into positivity is the stuff that we have been taught to do over and over and over that's not working for most people.
Right.
Trying to get the mind to be positive is like trying to chop the weeds off at the top with your scissors. You still have the hidden motives to survive in there, right? There's the hidden motives to survive. Greed, grudge, hatred, victim, illogical rules, humble, traitor, pride, resistance, lazy. Those things are inspiring the thoughts to happen. So unless you do something here, you will never be able to wrestle this to the ground with positivity. So getting this to be positive is like slathering ice cream on top of your mud pie. You have a rose garden with a sewer underneath. And the game is to deal with the sewer, not the rose garden. If you deal with the sewer, then this will be much, much more pleasant. So that brings me to the second component of the rapid enlightenment process, which are the hidden motives to survive. So the hidden motives to survive: greed, grudge, hatred, victim, illogical rules, humble, traitor, pride, resistance, and lazy. These are all survival mechanisms, survival programming. And they're survival programming that are hardwired into who we are. So it's probably part genetic and it's also part consciousness. So the negative chatter in your head, that fear and that doubt that talks you out of taking action and building your business, is the effect, not the cause.
Now, do you think that a lot of people think that way? A lot of people, you should just show that chart, right? Because our mind's job is to protect us from danger. And so anything that our mind feels is uncomfortable, it wants us to stay away from. Even picking up the phone and calling our database, or calling expireds, or calling for sale by owners, it sees that as danger because it makes us scared. So it's trying to keep us out of the uncomfortable, which helps us grow, right? So do you think that that's why a lot of people default to those different types of personality, I guess, for lack of a better explanation?
I think you nailed it, Nick. The hidden motives to survive literally program the drunk monkey in your head to keep moving you towards safety, towards comfort, towards looking good, away from taking risks, away from being embarrassed. And the way in which you correct these imbalances is with the third component of the rapid enlightenment process, which is to connect with enlightened perspectives. And these are perspectives that assume that all is well. Because when you know that all is well, when you are connected with all is well, there's nothing to fear. You take action. You move forward. You create the life that you want. When you recognize that the source of life for you is the source of life for everyone and everything, that we're all one thing expressing itself with infinite variety. When you recognize that there is a background quantum field and that there are these very, very small flickerings of energy that are self-assembling. And they are self-assembling into you, into me, into everything that we experience. And everything that we experience is the same base energy and information. That there is a pervasive energy and information in the universe. Essentially, guys, if we're being really, really straight about it, science has done the exact opposite of what they intended. Instead of proving there is no God, they proved that there is God, and that God is the creative force that is creating everything, the background quantum field. All things are coming out of this. When you know that, when you connect with it, when you become extremely rational, your fear disappears. The rational mind is not burdened by fear, and that takes practice. You actually have to practice connecting with enlightened perspectives.
Well, Matthew, I think one of the biggest challenges for me through this whole process is sometimes finding that rationality, because on the way there is where everything else creeps in. But once you reach that spot and you're truly rational, you realize that everything is okay, right? And that you can continue to go and live your life to the fullest. But dude, it's a battle every day, you know? And not everybody talks about it, because being truly rational is not very easy. How do you get there and stay there a longer time?
You literally employ the 4 components of the rapid enlightenment process. So it starts with awareness. Awareness makes you flexible, which reveals new options, and those options are what give you the power. So what happens is we're practiced in a certain way. We come into the world with a certain predisposition. So we might say that Nick came into the world in this anxious state, that he came into the world like, whoa, right? Whatever his version of anxious is, I'm making it up.
Yeah, you nailed it.
So Nick comes into the world this way. Then what happens is we have lived this lie, and the lie is that the world makes us who we are. And that's a lie. You come in a certain way, and then the environment shapes you. And you know that is true, because you just look at your brothers and sisters. You look at your own kids and you go like, they're in the exact same environment, completely different response, totally different reaction based on the human. So becoming aware of the way in which your survival programming is expressing itself is one of the most powerful things you can do to bring about incredible peace. And then that peace will give you tremendous power to make changes. So what is the process? The process is 1, begin to see that your mind is not your friend. 2, take the time to heal the imbalances in your consciousness brought in by the hidden motives to survive. 3, read chapter 9 in my book over and over and over and over and over. There are 35 enlightened perspectives in there. And when you connect with those enlightened perspectives, it is impossible for your mind to be burdening you. And then 4, learn the 4th component, which is recontextualization. So it's kind of like this, guys. When you see that your mind is full of shit, when you see that your mind is not really you, when you see that your mind is a mechanism and all the talking that you think is you is actually not you, it doesn't even care about you. When you see, Nick, that the talking in your head doesn't even care about you, I mean, who else calls you fat, stupid, ugly, you're an idiot, what's wrong with you, you're a loser? Nobody else calls you that stuff except for your mind.
Sometimes,
and if they did, they wouldn't be your friend. But here you are, you're like, oh, I love my mind. I love my thoughts. Well, that's stupid, because your mind does not love you.
Yeah.
Your mind is an abuser.
Yeah. No, it's true, right? Like, your mind is what gives you your self-esteem. Your mind is what tells you how you're feeling, and you allow your mind to tell you you're not good enough. Totally. I completely know what you mean.
So the moment you disassociate from that, and you begin to observe your mind, which is really an Eastern practice to be mindful and observe your mind, you have a lot of power. But you can't stop there. The next thing you have to do is go in and you have to heal the imbalances. You have to notice, where am I employing pride as a tactic? Where am I being humble as a way of manipulating people? Where am I using victim as a way to garner support so I don't have to use a lot of energy? I can just be weak and get other people to do stuff for me. Where am I using hatred to overcome what I think is scary? You have to start to look and see, where are you utilizing these tactics? Because the moment you see yourself doing it, you're like, what am I doing? You let that go. Then you connect with the enlightened perspectives. The enlightened perspectives have you do this. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. All is well. And then the last component is to actually use language to begin to describe your situation with the underlying assumption that all is well. So when a deal is going south, you change your language to fit the model of reality that all is well, that of course deals go south, and that the only reason that I am attached to this deal is that I have been being a nincompoop and not generating a bunch of deals. So one deal isn't extraordinarily meaningful to me, and that's on me. That's my issue. The seller is doing what is best for them. The buyer is doing what is best for them. The mortgage broker, the escrow company, the title company, blah, blah. Everybody's doing the best they can. I'm doing the best I can, except I'm having a reaction, not to the situation. I'm having a reaction to my own inaction and my own unwillingness to be responsible for my situation and recognize that it's a numbers game and that only a certain percentage of deals actually come together, not all of them. That is recontextualization. I'm changing my perspective to be extremely responsible for my situation, and that keeps me at peace. These are practices, guys. It'll take people some time to take these on, but number one, get my book and start to study the process, and it'll blow your mind how quiet your mind starts to get.
I posted a link to your book on Facebook there.
Awesome.
Through Amazon as well.
Let me complete, and then I'll open up to whatever else you guys want to talk about. I want to just give you 8 reasons why I think enlightened prosperity is so damn good for business. Number 1, you don't get upset with your clients or other people in business.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't get upset. Number 2, you can face the worst case scenario and be ruthlessly honest about your numbers and your profitability. Number 3, the natural volatility of your business up and down doesn't stress you out. You can handle the ups and downs stress-free. Number 4, because you're capable of being extremely present to others, you have natural magnetism, which makes you very, very easy to do business with. People want to feel like everything's going to be okay. And when you feel like everything's going to be okay, forget about it. People are like, yes, I want to be in your world. Number 5, because you are fearless, you're capable of extreme logic and critical thinking. Your emotions don't cloud your thinking. Number 6, because you can see things so clearly, you take bigger risks. And of course, if you take bigger risks, you also start to reap bigger rewards. Nothing feels very risky when you know that all is well, when you recognize that the source of life for you is the source of life for everything, that you are essentially a regenerating aspect of the universe. Number 7, you enjoy what you do because you don't resist people and you don't resist your situation and you don't resist the work. You accept things as they are and you move forward from there. So you don't accept things as they are and then put your head in the sand. You accept things as they are and then you move forward from there. And then finally, number 8, you massively increase your network because you're capable of seeing the perfection in every person that you meet. And that is unbelievably attractive. And it opens you up to a huge variety of people rather than this narrow band of people that meet with your expectations of how to operate in the world. Who you are naturally limits how many people you can deal with. When you understand your nature and you rise above it, you expand the possibility of all the different kinds of people that you can deal with. So to me, those are the 8 kick-ass reasons to even take on your own journey to enlightened prosperity.
Those are good, dude. So tell me, where would you start? And just the simplest place to start on maybe something that we can do that we can do now to start changing this in us?
Here's what I want you to do. Number one, I want you to, starting today, notice that your mind is not your friend. Notice that it doesn't care about you. Notice that it contradicts you. Notice that you have ideas and things that you want to do and it talks you out of it. Notice that your mind is programmed for survival. It's not programmed for prosperity. It's programmed for survival. Now, every once in a while, somebody's mind comes in and their survival mind is very prosperous. So don't get me wrong, okay? You can certainly, if you look around, most people are making huge amounts of money out of their own fear and anxiety and need to be acknowledged or be a part of the group. So don't get me wrong here. It's just that most of the people who are trying to succeed in the world today are doing it out of an old model that doesn't work for them. And the old model is survival consciousness. The new model is enlightened consciousness. So that's number one. You need to see that your mind is not your friend. The second thing that I would highly recommend is that they do the 23 daily practices in the back of my book. Can I just read you a couple of what these practices are?
Yeah.
So the 23 daily practices in my book, one is to set your intention to be happy. So this is actually really important because most of us, when we examine what our intention is like, get shit done. Make sure I close that deal. Make sure that people know that I'm a good person, right? We have all these crazy intentions that aren't actually what we want. And if you start by setting your intention to achieve the thing you think you're going to get when you finally succeed, and you begin to experience the thing that you think that is going to happen when you finally succeed, when you experience it now, it changes everything in your life. You go for the experience now, and then the results will follow. Day number 2 is to practice total and complete acceptance of all people in all situations at all times, including yourself.
Ooh, that's tough, dude. I don't know if I can do that one, Matthew. I'm joking.
You can, and you and I worked a lot on that.
Yeah, we did.
And the reason that you ultimately can is that you start to realize that you do not like in other people what you do not like about yourself, but you're unwilling to admit.
Ooh, tell me more about Tristan.
You do not like in other people, but you are unwilling to admit about yourself. There is nobody out there. Everybody that you see out there in the world is actually information, energy and information coming into your senses that you're then correlating with your sensory mechanism. And then if somebody bothers you, what bothers you is not them. What bothers you is you. You're bothering yourself with your own explanation of the situation, your own judgments.
That's what I'm going to use.
Everybody in the world is agitating us. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've been in therapy for the last 12 years, and I feel like after this webinar, I don't need therapy anymore. I think you just
Stop
saved
bothering yourself, Nick. Stop bothering yourself.
It's kind of like this, okay? Here's a little quote from my mentor, Dr. Hawkins.
Okay.
He says, acceptance is the great healer of strife, conflict, and upset. It also corrects major imbalances in perception. So here are your imbalances in perception, right? So these are the imbalances: greed, grudge, hatred, victim, illogical rules, humble, traitor. Those are imbalances. And why they're imbalances is that here you are in the world, you're in a thriving state. Everything is essentially set for you. What is going to probably kill most people is what they eat and their inability to control their stress. That kills most. Heart attack and cancer. It's going to kill most people. And so, and of course, I'm generalizing, but you get what I'm saying. Here you are, you're in this thriving state, but your consciousness is down here in this survival state, and it creates an imbalance. They don't go together. So you're constantly malfunctioning. You're constantly going like, I'm trying to do why can't I do what I want to do? It's constantly throwing you off. So he says here that acceptance is the great healer of strife, conflict, and upset. It also corrects major imbalances of perception, and it creates the dominance of negative feelings. He says everything serves a purpose. With humility, you realize that you will not understand all events or occurrences. And then he says acceptance is not passivity, it's just non-positionality. So this is not about being passive. This is about you recognizing you're taking a position. And the moment you take a position, you create resistance and malfunction. The moment you open yourself up to all the possibilities and you resist nothing, now anything is possible. What you resist will persist. What you accept will transform.
Dude, that is such a good quote, bro. That's good. I like that. All right, one question for you. What's the time on this? Oh, good. I have enough for a question. You're talking to adults right now, and our audience is adults. But I'd like to.
Are we sure about it?
Well, maybe not you and I, but everybody else.
You and I maybe were the only exceptions.
Yeah,
it's possible.
But thanks, man. But I think I'd like your opinion on how to be able to start shaping the minds of our kids or a younger generation, because I would want to start with them when they're young now, so they don't have as many challenges as, let's say, myself or Nick does at a much older age. Is there something that you would tell them differently, or would you approach it the same way with them?
I wouldn't approach it with them at all. I would be it. And my advice to parents is to be the thing that you want to see in your children. And I think it was Gandhi that said, be the change that you want to see in the world. And I'm gonna make the recommendation that the wanting to change in your children is actually what you want to change in yourself, but you're unwilling to take it on. So you're going to subvert your responsibility and put it on them, which is only going to piss them off and cause them to not do it. So the game is make the shift in you. When you shift, everything shifts. You are a very powerful person, and I'm not speaking right now to just Tristan and Nick. I'm speaking to you, the viewer, the listener. You are the most powerful person in your environment. If you change, the world changes. The game is inside of you. It's not in the world.
Yeah, I love that, dude. All right, so that goes along with what you and I talked about before. So I pray with my kids every morning, every evening. But one of the things that we pray is help us to be the best example that we can be. So I say, hey, help me, help Dad, and help Aaliyah and Anson. And so we go through that and then say, help surround us with people that are good for us and help us be good to them. So, dude, you hit it right on. I love that you said that, because it makes me feel better.
I loved this session, man. I think I really feel like this is going to resonate with a lot of people, just because we live in such a stressful, negative environment right now, like just in our country and in the world as a whole. And I don't think social media is helping that. And I think there's a lot of argumentative situations going on out there, and we see it a lot in our industry and people. And I think it's coming from a place of uncertainty, and I think it's also coming from a place of fear, because as agents, it's no secret, there's a very high failure rate in this industry, 87% after 5 years. The average age of a realtor is 55 to 60 years old. And so we're moving towards this direction of technology, and a lot of them are feeling like they're being pushed out because they're not able to adapt. And so they're laying this feeling of fear and stress onto others. And so I want them to all go back and watch this and get your book and figure out how to just, for lack of a better term, just calm the hell down a little bit. You know what I mean? Get more of a positive mindset. What you think about is going to come to you. I really do feel that way, and it took me a really long time to understand that and to actually accept it. So I appreciate what you said. And something else you said about risk. I took a huge risk a year ago, moving 800 miles from New Jersey to Michigan to start over in my career. Not start over, but start over in a new market. And I did it for my wife because we moved back to her hometown. And so I have seen nothing but upward growth in the last 12 months because I did something that was completely out of my comfort zone. And
well done, Nick.
I appreciate that you said
done,
that.
buddy.
It's 100% true.
I like to call that a crux move. And it's when you're climbing on the side of a cliff and you're doing free climbing and you have to jump from where you are to the next place, and there's no you're not holding on to anything. You just jump, boom, and catch. Well done. Well, gentlemen, I'm gonna jump and move on to my next thing, and I appreciate you greatly. Thank you so much for helping me get this message out there into the world. I think that it is an extraordinary opportunity for a real estate agent to quiet their mind so they can have an epic life and rise above the status quo so they can experience enlightened prosperity now. These things will make such a huge difference for the right person. It's not for everybody, but for the right person, it will make a profound difference. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Matthew. Great seeing you, man.
Thank you, Matthew. Bye-bye.